students, thank you for joining us today. Once again for our 2020 OFCV Student Leadership Conference. As you all know, the theme for it is Transcending Adversity, Cultivating Leadership. My name is Luis Rojas. I am the data analyst at OneFuture Coachella Valley. And along with Ricardo Ramirez and the rest of the team, I will oversee the student scholarship application process. So for those that haven't been joining us, or this is your first time joining us, see. OneFuture Coachella Valley mission, if you haven't read our mission is to graduate all students, prepare for college, career, and life. And one of those components that we have as part of OneFuture Coachella Valley and its mission is to provide local scholarships to our local students in the community to get them in and out of college and come back to our community and start working in our community to be able to help other students in the community as well. Thank you to the Anderson's Children's Foundation. Ms. Brianna, if you're in the audience, thank you once again for your generosity and support. We greatly appreciate it at OneFuture Coachella Valley. And students and community members, please make sure to follow us on social media. As you can see on your screen, please make sure to follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn. For those that have LinkedIn accounts, please make sure to follow us as well in there as well. Also, a friendly reminder to all the students and everybody joining us today to keep all your comments and questions respectful. Please be respectful. All comments and questions being posted. Just keep in mind that this is a learning environment and not any. You can ask any question you have. Please make sure not to leave with any question that you want to ask to our presenter today, which will be Juan Guzman as well. Some of the questions before we start a webinar series is to start asking yourself, you can see on your screen, how can I use technology to improve my academic success? Which I'm thinking about time management. That can be something that can help you out with your academic success. And also looking for how can you use technology to better help you connect with community resources. Like in the previous webinar series, we were looking at how Find Feedback has resources for students like Alfred, also for the community members in the community. So how can you help others? How can you use your community resources to help others? And also we want you to start thinking about what type of services, what type of technology and software your university has to offer you. For example, like College of Desert offers students off Microsoft Office 365 for free, and as well for other like UC Berkeley, I know for a fact offers free software and technology to students just for the fact of attending that university. So please make sure to ask those questions to yourself, and hopefully during this webinar you're able to answer those questions. And also make sure to, if you can't find them, for example, like the technology piece, if we're looking at a college and university, please make sure to Google them and look them up, because all college and universities have that free software for students, all students as well. So without further ado, I would like to introduce Juan Guzman. He's also, just a little bit about him, he's also a former alumni and my former colleague at OneFuture Coachella Valley. Now he's decided to create his own business, and now he'll be touching today on technology and efficiency. So welcome, Juan. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Luis. Thank you for inviting me here to talk about technology, which is a deep passion of mine. I've been doing for many years, and I'm really obsessed about tech. So I've been sort of seeing your comments chat on sort of how can we use technology to better ourselves, which is a big topic of today's conversation, is how can we use technology to help us to sort of progress and move forward in our current journey in life. I see a lot of a study, how can we use for studying, how can we use it to move up in like corporate America or even in other small businesses. So I'll be breaking this sort of presentation into 3 sections. The section 1 really revolves around, how can we minimize the time between thought and action? How can we generate this idea and then take action on it with relatively short period of time? The next section focuses on freeing up your mental space. With so much content that's out there that's being produced, we as humans have not evolved yet to be able to synthesize these quantities and huge data that's just out there. So I'm gonna show you some tips and tricks and some apps that can kind of help with that and alleviate that. And then we'll end our sort of presentation with how can we, after we get an idea and we start to start action on, how can we give it a bit of life and make it evolve and become something greater than ourselves. I like when I do my presentations to be very interactive with the chat. So as we're moving along the presentation, if you like an app or like an idea, give me a little lit emoji, a little fire emoji. And if something that you may not necessarily use or don't care for, give me a little poop emoji or a little thumbs down to signify maybe that's not for me, but maybe for someone else. So really my story begins around 2015. I've recent college grad out of UC Riverside, having graduated with a BS in biology, and my mind was set on medicine and just all I knew and all I wanted to do is medicine. And I took about a year off, a year gap, and I started working after that year in OneFuture Coachella Valley. That time was dubbed CVAP. And I progressed and I did about 3 years with OneFuture. It was a great experience. I loved it. I met some really great friends, colleagues at that time, and still talk to this day. And everyone kept telling me, you sound and play the part of an entrepreneur. Why don't you sort of take that leap? And I decided to take that leap around 2018, so roughly close to 2 years now since I've sort of ventured off. And I knew nothing about business. I knew just very, very basics. So in a way, I had to become a student again, and with a different mindset, because now the stakes were much, much higher. I knew that if I couldn't perform at a relatively expert level or higher in a short amount of time, that no income was coming in, I could potentially be homeless. So the stakes were very high. I have to learn how to adapt quickly, and I sort of use technology to sort of bridge that gap and use technology as a tool, which is a big topic, right? Let's use it as a tool, not as a pastime. Not into that. I'm more of a tool guy. So let's use it as a tool to really enhance and bring forth what's truly important to us, is being around our friends and spending quality time with stuff we love. So over the past 2 years, I've accumulated tons of apps and knowledge, and I would like to sort of start sharing that with you guys. So the first thing, and I'll start sharing my screen. So the very first thing, and some of the things I will be discussing are a bit radical for most, but I do encourage you to try them out. Has helped me a tons. The first thing I do when I get a new computer or a new phone is I install a black wallpaper. I call this the Eclipse. This sort of theory comes from John Knapp. He has lived with what he calls a distraction-free iPhone for about 6 years. And the first thing he does is he installs his black wallpaper. His theory is that if we go to our phones, we're not there to, quote unquote, get a little candy. We're there for just as a tool purpose. So the first thing I do is install his black wallpaper. This helps me to focus on what's really important, is getting the job done. When you have pictures of your girlfriend, boyfriend, you get caught up on that and distracted. So the first thing I do is install this black wallpaper. So from here, since there's nothing to really look at, then I start working on sort of the next object, which could be a task, could be sending an email, etc. The next thing I learned from a biochemist student at that time, a friend of a friend, that started to analyze how we view content in our screens. And this guy maybe slept like 2 hours a day, did gaming, and really wasn't what we call focused on school, but he got top grades, was top of the class. And I really started to pick his brain maybe around third year of undergrad at UC Riverside. And one thing I learned that was as a tip for you guys is that when we look at content, it's much easier for our eyes to go up and down than left and right. So when I structure my workspace, a computer, a phone, I try to organize my content going up and down, save some time. So all of my folders are up and down, nothing is left and right. And if I look at my menu dock, it's up and down. So it's a lot easier to navigate through apps, which reduces the time you have to search and scan, which is pretty cool. The next tip is sort of, I was struggling, part of my work is reviewing apps. I get so many requests for investment opportunities. As a startup founder, I also dab into investment opportunities as an angel investor. So people will come to me, clients, they have an idea, they grow it, a business, and maybe it's an app technology, and I have to review tons of apps and then either join the team or actually take an investment in that opportunity. So one of the things I kept struggling with, and we'll jump into the phone in a moment, is when I would install an app, I would forget where I actually placed it because it's tons of folders. The productivity category is very general, and it really doesn't help me a lot. So the one thing I do is I label my folders app or verb-based. So let's go to the phone here. There we go. So this is my phone again, dark wallpaper. I get into it. It's just all about as a tool. So the first thing I do, again, I do my folders as a verb. So I jump into the phone, and in my mind, I'm asking, I want to. So if I want to read an email, I would click on the read. So I want to read, and all my read apps are categorized in that folder. If I want to create a piece of content for a particular startup or maybe a social media campaign, I would hit the create. So I create social media, and then I would click on any of those apps. Let's say I want to buy something off the online store. Maybe it's on Amazon. I ask myself, I want to, and then hit buy, and it's all there. So having folders in verbs helps you to first locate what you need, and then second, makes it a lot easier to get into the groove without having to jumble around. And I purposely created a folder like this. So you can imagine maybe your phone looks like this. It's kind of hard to know where you put it, especially if you're installing apps or deleting tons of them. You just don't know. So verb-based is the way to go. So let me jump back into my desktop. Okay, great. So from here, the next one is what I call the peanut butter and jelly. This is the glue that binds all of my technology together. Now, this app is, aside from the wallpaper, is the second app I installed. And that app is called Alfred. Now, to activate Alfred, you hit Command spacebar on your keyboard if you're using a Mac, or you're using a Windows, you hit Control space. And this brings up a small little fill in of the box kind of deal. Now, if you see my current screen, there's really no way to access any apps. It's all based on this command, Alfred. So from Alfred, you can do so many things. And I mean, I'm only touching the surface. For one, you can search. So if something comes to mind, you want to search the internet, I don't know, maybe we'll search iPhone. Hit iPhone, and there comes your browser. You don't have to open up your browser, go to these URL, type it in, and search. Let's say you want to buy something from Amazon. Hit Amazon. Let's say maybe I'll buy another iPhone. There it is. You don't have to waste the time. Oh, thanks. You don't have to waste the time to try to dig through all of this stuff. You can just go there. Now, what's very powerful, if you layer that on top, it becomes a very important search engine for your folders. Now, I'm terrible at doing folders aside from the verb folders. I put content everywhere, and it's sometimes very tough and difficult to actually find something. So what I do is open up Alfred. So from Alfred, maybe I'll go open, and then Instagram, and maybe I want to open up this post. And there it is. So to do the same action, I would have to open up Finder. From Finder, I would need to go over to, I believe it's under Documents, and then Instagram Posts, and then find that post. That takes way too much time when I can just simply open Instagram, and then anything I want is there. So that, is a bit of Alfred. I mean, you can do so much. I have a command that says start my day. When you do start my day, actually be a D, it opens up whole different apps. So when I go into my desktop, hit SMD, all the apps that I need to communicate with my team are there. So that is Alfred. All right, so now let me go into the next phase, All right, so in the next phase, we're going to be talking about freeing up your mental space. And this is going to focus a lot on email. Whichever side you lie on, whether you like email or you hate email, it is sort of the de facto, and we have to use email. So I'm going to show you a bit of tools that can help you to be more efficient when it comes to your email processing. I've been using email, since 2009 or so, and for 3 or 4 years now, I've been email zero, which is when you go into your email, there's like no emails, because I have an efficient way to actually process email, and I use tools to sort of blanket that. So with that, let me open up Chrome. Okay. So this is Chrome. I use Chrome as my main browser. And before we jump into email, I do want to touch upon a really cool app that I use on a regular basis, and it's called Toby. Toby is a Chrome extension. I believe they're working on Mozilla, which is Firefox, and then Edge for Microsoft. Now, Toby is the best version of a bookmark or bookmarks. Toby, the way this works is when you're browsing something, let's say we have this search, you can actually create a session. So maybe you have different tabs open. In this case, let's say I was working on this active story framework. I can open all tabs like so. So I can go in there. And let's say I get pulled aside for another meeting. The awesome thing is you can save all your tabs into a session. So you hit save as a session. And now you can rename it. You can do it whichever way you want to here on your session. And let's say you want to come back to it after you're done with your meeting. Go back here, open 4 tabs, and you're there. I mean, it's very powerful. Now you can also just save frequently used tabs. Here are my frequently used tabs. For technology and efficiency of today, here are some tabs that we'll sort of be going through. And I mean, this is the way to go when it comes to tabs, because there's so many of them. I've seen screenshots where you have like 30 tabs open, and you have to pick around it and go through them. It's just too much waste of time. From here, you can save it, you can delete it, like so, and you can go to your collections, which are super, super cool. So that is Toby, and that is a Chrome extension at the moment. They'll release for other web browsers in the future. All right, so let's jump into Gmail. So I actually had to put some email back into my email because it was email zero. So there's nothing there. To show you some cool tips and tricks on how to use Gmail effectively, and this also can apply to Outlook and other email clients. So the first thing I like to do when I'm using Gmail is to install a extension, and this works on mostly all browsers except Safari, is to install the extension Simplify. Now, when you install the extension, one thing that's so terrible about Google, just their product in general, is they sort of have to cater to a large market, so they start to just fill it with junk. Like, why would someone want to access Hangouts from Gmail? I just don't understand. So there's just tons of clutter, and then there's also a sidebar here. I mean, it's quite overwhelming. So with Simplify, it all goes away. So let me show you that. So here it is. When you activate that Chrome extension, it just cleans it up. So you get to your Gmail, you get to your email, and you focus on what's important, not focusing on all this other junk. So that extension is called Simplify. From here, most people don't know, but there's a couple things that we can do within this view. And let's head over to our settings. So let's see all settings. From here, most people don't know this exists, but you can do tons of filtering and layering. You can even do your signature. But one thing that most people don't know exists is if you hit your advanced and you hit templates, You hit that enabled, and you hit save. You can actually go, let's see, transfer Google account. Do you know how to transfer your Google account? Yes, I do. There's a way to do it. So you can actually go in here and you can open up a new email. And let's say this email, we're going to do a hello world. Let's say you're going to send this to multiple people. And what most people do is they copy it and they paste it and they keep pasting it, pasting it, pasting it. Let's say there's 50 recipients, you have to do it 50 times. That takes so much time. So hit the ellipses. Since you toggled on the template feature, hit templates, save as a template, save as a new template, and let's rename this to hello world. And then hit save, and then we'll trash this email. When you hit a new, to generate a new email here, go back to your templates, hit hello world, and it'll be populated. So if you can, maybe you have 1,000 hello worlds, you can go back in there, go to templates, save, and then overwrite an existing template. And we'll trash this one. Go back, hit your templates, and then hit hello world, and there it is. So if you're doing a batch email, this is sort of the way to go. And recently we were launching a product. My team was launching a product maybe about 3 months ago, and we need to reach out to a lot of individuals. And we wanted a bit of personalization, but still sort of keep a template. And this is the way we did it. So we were targeting about 1,000 people. Copy and pasting 1,000 is just a waste of time. So we did the template approach. Okay. All right. So the next app, very important app, it does cost a couple of dollars to have, but it can save you from just getting so many emails. Now, I highly recommend as you're getting emails, if you're no longer going to use some of these emails, that you unsubscribe. To unsubscribe, you either head to the very bottom, or sometimes Gmail actually links it up for you, and then sort of work that workflow in. And the problem with that is if you have tons of emails, and if you've been accumulating for many years, going to unsubscribe, again, is just a waste of time. I wouldn't recommend it. So there's actually an app called Leave Me Alone. So let's launch it now. So Leave Me Alone actually scrapes, of course, privacy is in place, so don't worry about them reading your emails, but they scrape all your emails that you can actually unsubscribe from, and they list it in a chronological order based on when you received it. And then from here, you can actually unsubscribe by just toggling it off. So in this case, let's say I don't want Todoist, hit unsubscribe. In this case, it failed to do so, and which is nice because I want to show you guys this. You go to see details, hit unsubscribe manually, and then usually they display a box, but in this case they didn't. So maybe that's a bad example. Let's see, station. Nope. Let's try Whole Foods. So unsubscribe from Whole Foods. Gosh. All right. Okay, let's try Envision. Wow. Guess they don't want me to unsubscribe. So there's a sort of process that follows. Something wrong. Let's see. Yeah, they don't show the image. All right, let's try page 2. Okay, let's try Kenny Chen. So hit unsubscribe. All right. Okay, maybe we'll have to trash this app then because it's not working. That's a bummer. But in theory, you should be able to. Let's try this one. It's actually an F. Nope. Maybe they were having error servers. We'll see. But in theory, you should be able to view all your email from here and just toggle these off. I did some before. I think it was over 1,000 subscribes, and I got it down to, gosh, is it 6 pages? And I still have a lot of work to do. It's 109. But it's better than getting thousands of emails that we don't read and just slowing down our systems. All right. So that wraps up that section on sort of email. How can we be more efficient with our email? I will add couple of things that I do, and this really depends on if you're allowed to do so, if you're actually employed, or if you're at school, you're a little bit more lenient. But I only read emails at 5:30 p.m. once a day. I don't read them, multiple times a day, because at the end of the day, emails are someone else's priority, and it's not your priority. So if you read emails once a day, knock them out at 5:30, then you're done. You don't have to focus on, constantly going there and having to manage. And I do it specifically at 5:30 because I know people are driving back home, and the last thing they want to do when they get home is open up their emails. So when I respond back to them, I'm hoping I don't get a reply back into tomorrow at 5:30. So that is that on emails. All right. So the next section is, I'll be spending a large time on this, is the note-taking toolbox, or having your great ideas come to life. Now, I've been fortunate to try out products that are sort of in beta or coming up online. And I was very fortunate to try out this new product. And when it hit the market, it was a game changer. And it's been a game changer for me. I had about 2 months from the time I left OneFuture to actually find a client. And within 2 months, I sold, or not really sold, I penciled in and got my first contract, well over 500,000. And then from there, it allowed me to bring in close to 26 employees across 2 different continents. And with, from that moment on, I just been on a crazy growth. I have a wait list of clients that are coming to me, but there's one tool that I'll show you next. Again, it's a game changer. Tools like this maybe come around every 10 years. And once they do, boy, man, it changes the way you look at life, changes the way you approach technology. So this tool is actually called Notion. So Notion is a tool that has many, many different names to it. So it's almost hard to even describe it, but the best way I can is if Google Docs, Excel, Google Slides, Jira, Atlassian, Evernote, all the note-taking apps, all the project management tools out there, if all of them had a baby, this will be it. That's how powerful this tool is. And if I was a nonprofit, wink, wink, OneFuture, this is one tool I would heavily, heavily invest in, because this is a game changer. They were, from day one, profitable, and it's amazing. So I'll show you how I intertwine this particular tool with 2 game-changing ways of studying. Like I said before, I knew nothing about business, but within 2 months, I was, you can say, top dog. I was meeting with top CEOs, multi-billionaires, talking about my companies and how they can purchase or acquire my companies. So let me show you Notion and how I use it. So Notion takes many, many forms. It can be a wiki. It can be a Google Doc. Maybe you're sharing with friends. It's all online, so you can actively work on it. Someone else is getting your same copy at the same time. No longer do you have to worry about having different versions of anything. Now, the way I use Notion as a study notes app is I like to evoke the active recall system. So when we're in class, when we're taking notes, the first thing you have to think about is how can I translate these notes into questions? And I learned this from a gentleman who went to Harvard, and if you look at his past history, you would not think this person, or this individual, actually get into Harvard. But the one important role that he did, or critical sort of step, is to start thinking about how can I take these notes and turn them into questions? Because if I can turn them into questions, I can evoke the active recall system. And the theory is we have what we need in our brains, is just the ability to actually actively recall and bring that forward. So here's an example. Let's say you're a student, university, you're doing a physiology course, and you've taken your notes, or you're attending your class online, and then now you're actually doing your questions. So as you're doing your notes and you're doing questions, the first question you can write is, what is a tidal volume? Write that question down. Next is, what is the residual volume? How is the person's breathing rate regulated? How is transport of CO2 different from oxygen transport in the blood? Now, your job is to no longer look at those notes, but to actively start studying these questions. Because if you put your mindset in the ability to recall information in a question, which is what you're going to be tested on in a question format, you're that much more efficient in doing that. And again, this applies to not just school, but just in general, and I'll show you how I did that for my businesses. So in this case, I've done this question. An awesome feature about Notion is you can do these little toggles so you can add more information. Now, let's say you have a huge chapter of notes on tidal volume. The nice thing about Notion is you can link pages within pages. So let's do a page. So here's a page. Now I can add an emoji if I wanted to. So let's do that. Let's do the brain. I can title this Notes 2, perhaps. Great. You know what? I found a really great video on YouTube on how to do tidal volume. So let's open up Alfred and just go YouTube, tidal volume. So I like this one. So let's copy the link. Let's do a YouTube video. Paste it in. Wait for that to come up. Now we have a YouTube video within our notes. Powerful. Now we no longer have to say it was a bookmark, search it, come back to it. It's all there. How about let's do an overview? So let's do a little hashtag for heading to overview. Let's add some notes. So we just scribble here. Great. You know what? There's a checklist that I need to actually take care of. Let's do a checklist. To do 2. Oh, you know what? Actually, tidal volume can be actually broken down into a graph. Or not a graph, a table. So let's do a table. Do inline. So here's our table. Maybe this is measurements. So let's do tidal volume table. Some examples here. So this is broken down by males and females. Okay, close that out. So maybe this first section becomes gender. Male, female, other. Great. So the next one here is height. Okay, so we know we need height. Let's do this as a number. Maybe this guy is 6 feet, 5 feet, and then we'll say 5.5. All right. So let's look at our other. I think it's ML over KL. So ML over KL, or is it probably KG? Well, that as a number 2. Maybe that is 10, 20, 30. Great. So within a matter of seconds, you just had all your videos that you need for your notes. You have an overview of your content. You might have a checklist that you need to take care of and some measurements that you can then reference. Let's see what else we can add. Maybe we can add a little call out. Maybe the professor said, focus on this critical piece. So maybe it's tidal volume will be on the test. So you know as you're reviewing your notes that this is a must and a priority. So let's go back to our active recall system. As you're reviewing this, and let's say you did not get title volume, let's turn this red. And then, oh, let me brush up on mine some notes. So I actually have title volume here, and I can add some images. I can embed a PDF. This is setting the title volume in adult receiving medical ventilation. So I can do that. I can look at my chart again, all within one app. No longer do you have to go review your notes. You don't even have to have a set of books like this. You can all do it, and it's all queried, it's all searched, and it's powerful. So let's go back to our active recall. As reviewing your questions, an efficient way is not to review something you already know. So by tagging these red, next time you go to review, you're not focusing on the questions you know, you're focusing on the questions you don't know, and they're tagged red. So in this case, my next time through, it's gonna be title volume, and then this one is how this person's being regulated. And it's all there. Just say I want to embed a page. Here we go. So how do I use this aside from school, how do I use this for other, like a business? So I have, look here, let's see, actually let's do a search, storytelling, active storytelling framework. All right, so I had a client that wanted to use active story framework in their branding. I knew a little bit of how to accomplish that, so I did the active recall system. I looked at some YouTube videos, and I sort of laid questions. The next time I met her, I knew everything about storytelling, so I closed the contract because it's all here. If I wanted to look deeper, it's laid out here. If I wanted to link other pages, maybe I need to review the video, it's all there in my phone or on the web. All right. So the next way I use Notion to be more efficient is what I call spaced repetition, which I believe was termed by a German physicist. I may be wrong. But the idea is that after we learn or encounter the topic, in 24 hours, we're going to lose about 90% or retain only 10% of what we just learned. So the idea is to be able to break that up into segments. So after 24 hours, you do your first pass, and then a week later, do your second, and then so forth and so on. So I created this attempt, actually someone else created it, and I'm placing it here so you guys can use it. In this spaced repetition, since we were just working on, actually let's turn this into, unlock it. This page, great. Let's link a page that was title volume. So in a spaced repetition, you link all your pages, which is the power of Notion. So if you ever wanted to access that document, you click it and you're there. In spaced repetition, you signify or tell it what date you actually want, or actually first encountered this subject. So let's say it's a 29. From here, another power of Notion is you can do formulas, sort of like Excel, but you can even take them a step further. Is if I hit this first repetition, which is 24 hours after I encounter that, it changes their next repetition is August 5th. Hit this second repetition, it tells me that at the 18th I should do my third repetition. So after you're doing repetitions in a spaced repetition format, you actually give it a comfort level. Maybe I did okay, but not too great. Maybe I give it a 2. And then maybe this one here, I did 2 repetitions, and maybe this is a 4. The next time you come to study, and let's say all of these are in repetition number 3, and maybe this is a 3 and this is a 1, you're going to focus on the one that you're the weakest. Don't waste your time yet on the ones that you're great at. In this case, number 1 is the weakest. So I would go to, I think computer science here. So if this was linked to a page like title volume, I would click that. It will take me to title volume, and I can do my questions. all within, again, one app. You don't have to go around for different Google Docs and try to bring it all together. The next is some templates. So the power of Notion is that other community people create templates that one can use to sort of kickstart this off. And one thing I wish I had when I was in college is this roommate space template. In this roommate space template, the first thing I would do is I would share it with my roommates. I would put their names down, how much they actually need to pay every month. I would put property numbers here, like phone numbers. I can even embed the lease agreement. I can even put the Wi-Fi network and password. I can put some rules. So these are clickable to other pages so they can view what those rules are. I can put a calendar here. So in this case, Camille is going to be using the space on the 18th. And she says, go to her comments, I will clean up. Absolutely do not worry about it. So all here, you don't have to negotiate or fight over it and try to do all this crazy thing with your roommates. You just say, just go to our Notion page. It has everything you need. Don't bother me, that sort of thing. All right, the next one is class notes. So as students, we definitely want to have a collection of our class notes. And the powerful thing here is, of course, search and inquiry. So let's do a new class note. So we can link different pages. So let's open this, open as a page. So in this case, it's Computer Science 104, Lecture 5. You can add different properties. Maybe this is, maybe it's for a thesis. Actually not for, let's do a link, web link. You need to reference something, you can click on a property, hit the URL, and you can drop in a web link. In this case, it was created on this date. It's for a particular class. I can change that tagging. I can add multiple tags, delete multiple tags. What type of lecture this is, a lecture, study group, a seminar, reading. Has this been reviewed by me? If it is, you can toggle that in. Here's a chapter 5 link lists. So you can do that. You can go back. Let's say you wanted to review the post-war economics. Here's a little quote on maybe a book you were reading. Let's say you want to link additional books, maybe do a bookmark. You can paste, so we'll do title volume here. Paste that, so next time you come back, you know it's there. You can embed, maybe have a flowchart. So let's try whimsical. You can embed a flowchart if you wanted to. Maybe you're into a bit of design, so let's do a Figma integration. You can embed your Figma integration here. What else do we have? There's tons of stuff in here. You can do a full board, have video. We can embed audio if you wanted to. So maybe you're into music. This is a music class. You want to make sure it's always there with you. Not to be digging around folders. Google Drive. You can do Google Drive if you want to. Abstract, more of design, even maps, if that's your thing. You can do for math majors here. You can do your math equations. I mean, so much stuff you can do. And I'm touching the surface. All right, what else is here? For those who have tons of subscriptions like I do, I give you guys here a little starter for a subscription tracker. So you can name your subscription, you give them the status tags, are they active, not active, how much are they costing you? And the powerful thing about Notion is you can sum these up and actually give you some insight on how much you're spending per year. Next is if you're going into the market, you can actually create a job hunt tracker. So you can list all the companies you actually reached out to, what are their statuses, are they close, are they actually hiring, are you in the actual interview process, the roles, which I think these are linked, takes you to the actual job description, which is awesome. Who's the main contact, who's a phone number. This one's kind of funny, likelihood of getting hired. I mean, there's options there. And you can add additional tags or even a cover letter. So if you have stuff that you want to link here, here it is. You can link it all there, so you don't have to be digging around for this kind of stuff. All right, let's see what else do we have. Okay, job tracker. So that is a sort of quick, fast overview on Notion. I think Notion is a true game changer. I use it for all my companies. You can see I have so many documents here. It's all there. It's the only app I use I probably invested hours on this. And I think if you as a student were to have this, I think it would make your life a lot easier because it's all there, and it's stuff that we are already sort of accustomed to, like a Google Docs, Excel. So it's nothing of a large learning curve. All right, let's see what else. I think that's my quick spiel here on sort of how we can use, or how I use some of these apps to really kickstart my workflow, make it efficient, reduce the time between thought and action, actually take initiative and get that idea into a product and eventually into the market. And if I had an app like this when I was a student, I'll be a legend at the uni. So hope you guys, take some of these apps and use them. And if it works, great, share it. If you create a template in Notion and you like Notion, you can actively share this with other individuals, and they can copy your template and sort of keep the community going. If you ever want to start using Notion and maybe don't know where to start or how to start, there's actually a huge community on templates. So you go down here, you can go to the student section, and there's just tons of templates that one can quickly start and use. Here's a section here for students and educators. So again, very powerful tool. I use it. It's my main tool. Just sort of bringing everything together when you have so many projects. Some people across different continents, it's tough. So with this tool, it just helps it be much more less frictionless. All right. All right, I guess I can start answering some questions.
So one of the first questions I think we have when you're presenting, we have, do you know how to transfer your school email, your school Google account to your personal email?
Yeah, so it's not very intuitive. It's a bit complex. So the way I do it, first I would do a forwarding address. So when you link a forwarding address, everything gets sent, new email gets sent over. The other thing that one can do if it's a Gmail account is actually download all your email as a folder. I think I can pull it up. And then once you do that, you can then send it off into your new email client. It's going to download as a HTML file, so don't be sort of scared that it does. That's just the language we use. And I believe those are found under settings. I think it's under account and import. Add account, email, change password. I think it's under here. Okay. Yeah, I have to do a little more research on it. I've only imported, but I know there's a feature to export.
Okay, thank you, Juan. Students, please make sure to ask Juan some questions before he leaves. There is a question, Juan. Is Notion free? I can't find it in the App Store.
Yes, so Notion is free. So let's go Notion, and you students are lucky. I have to pay the full price for it. But you go Notion students, or just student. Notion is free for students. So if you go to Notion, just add your email address, and you get all the things I've discussed for free. And the app is also sort of included in that. It's bundled in free.
There is another question as well. Can you use Notion offline, and do you have recommendations on cost-effective data storage?
So Notion is unlimited data storage. So you can dump all your Google Drive stuff in there, or Dropbox if you have it, which is why I highly recommend it. That way you reduce the cost of having like a Google Drive or a Dropbox. It's $15. It's a lot, even when I was in school. So I would recommend Notion for that, even as a storage. And what was the second part to that, please?
And the second part to it was, do you have recommendations on cost-effective data storage?
Cost-effective data storage, yeah. It's In general, I use Google Drive for long-term storage. So if it's anything that needs to be archived long periods of time, I use Google Drive. Anything short-term, I use iCloud or I save it locally on my computer.
That's all the questions on for now.
Okay.
Students, also please make sure to ask any questions before we end the session. And also we'll stay a couple of minutes after our 3 p.m. webinar to answer any questions or concerns you guys have after this as well. Go ahead, Juan.
Let's see, I'm just reading some of the first kind of poll questions. See if there's anything I can pick out here. Oh, we just got a new one. Oh,
I have a quick question while
yes.
you're looking for those. So how about in terms of, I know that you use, a lot of online tools. In terms of, do you feel like it's complementary to also use, like for instances, in some things, online note-taking will be a tool, but then in some other instances, you may want to stick to paper or, a hard something. How do you determine that? Like, how do you differentiate it, in terms of?
If you're, yeah, so it's the downfall of having things online. If the servers ever go down, you don't have access to it. The positive is you can actually search it. When you have so many books like this, I can't even begin to search. It's just nearly impossible. So what I do, these are more for like immediate notes, more like tasks. So if I need to remember to do something, I write it down here. At the end of the day, I transfer it over to like a Notion where I can then manage like a to-do list. Anything that is going to retain longer than 3 days is my cutoff. So if I know I'm going to be actively engaging with that content more than 3 days, that needs to be put on the web. So you can query it, search it. If it's something you can discard within 3 days, you use something like this because it's a lot easier. You don't have to pull out your phone for.
We did get 2 more questions, Juan. There's a question. Any Chrome extensions you recommend to streamline Chrome performance and speed?
Yes, there's actually a startup. Oh my gosh. I don't know how they're doing it, but it's pretty brilliant. So they have this startup. They went to the Y Combinator program, and they're kind of high class. They came out of it where you can run like 30 or even 50 Chrome tabs, all from a plugin, and it runs just as you would with 2 tabs. I mean, I don't know how they're doing it. Maybe they're pushing it up to like a server, and then they're running some GPUs on that to make it efficient, and it becomes more of like a streaming thing. But I actually don't recall. Let's see. I know their mottos: make Chrome 10x faster. Chrome 10x. They're on their, yeah, there we go. Make Chrome faster. You do have to request. I couldn't get an access because I don't have a lot of tabs, and we sort of want to filter out people who actually need it. So go to mightyapp.com, just make Chrome faster by 10x. So say goodbye to CPU hog, to less memory, lightning fast page loads. So go there, request, and let me know how it goes because I'm very interested in this startup. Okay.
There's another question as well. Can you list the apps again? Toby's simplified
Yes.
Notion.
Yeah, so I'll be sharing this with you guys. I'll share it with Luis and the team, and they can share it. It's going to be on Notion, so you can go to Notion, hit this apps, and the apps are Alfred for type more, think less, Toby for better bookmarks, Notion for all-in-one tool, simplified Gmail to make that more cleaner experience, Leave Me Alone for easily unsubscribe from unwanted emails, and then I have 2 other essentials which we didn't cover. It's called Todoist for tasks, and then AI Writer for quick notes.
Thank you, Juan. We'll take the last question, and before I go over some important topics as well. There's another question. Does Notion sync calendar with iOS calendar and Google Calendar, or is there a good way to merge the two I can find? I prefer Google Calendar since I use it a lot on my PC. However,
Yes.
iOS is more convenient to use.
Yeah, so I would say stick with Google Calendar for the moment. It's a highly requested feature on Notion, is to be able to sync calendars. At the moment, they're focusing on their API, which is application programming interface. Once that happens, releasing pretty soon, then you'll have developers start integrating within different platforms. So you can have the ability to then migrate or, share events within Notion. So stay tuned for that.
Thank you, Juan. Before we leave, we'll answer those two last questions after it goes on important topics. So I'll start sharing my screen, Juan, and we can share your screen after. Let me see.
Okay. I can stop now.
Students, before we end, we just want to give a big thank you to the Anderson's Children's Foundation once again for their generosity and support. Okay, if you have any questions, please make sure to contact either me, Christina, or the rest of the staff. As you can see on your screen, you can also go to the OneFuture website as well. And you can get our contact info as well from there.